We are going to implement our own JSON.stringify function in JavaScript. If you are already aware of JSON.stringify function, then you might know that whenever we pass any variable to the JSON.stringify, it converts to the string. The variable can be a Boolean, it can be a number, a string, or anything, any primitive or non-primitive data type. When you pass to the stringify function, then it converts to the string. So it's more like an encoding function. In other languages, there are functions like JSON.encode, which will convert any variable to the string. In JavaScript, the function is JSON.stringify. So this is one of the most common interview question asked, that how to convert any variable, any primitive or non-primitive that is given, and we want to convert it to the string. So let's start writing. So as you can see that there are different input that are given. So for example, in case of Boolean, we want to just convert it to the string format of that Boolean value. Second is in number, if we just want to convert that number to the string. In case of a string, as you can see, we have just added a quote and it is pretty much the same string that is returned. In case of null, which is a very specific case, we just have to add a quote. And in case of array, as you can see that it is a string format with square brackets and then we have comma, but as you can see here that there is no space between the comma here. And the last example is if we have an object, then also you can just observe the output that we have the curly bracket starting and ending, and then we have the key and a value pair separated by the comma. So this is how actually the output of the JSON.stringify looks, and we are going to implement our own version of JSON.stringify. So let's talk about the approach. So in terms of approach, it is very clear that for the primitive data types, if the data type is Boolean, number or string, we just want to convert it like in this format. We have to just handle how we can convert a string and add a specific code, so that we have to handle. But other than that, primitive is very straightforward. We have to just convert any variable to the string. But what about the non-primitive? In case of arrays and object, we have to handle very differently. So if it is a non-primitive data type, then we have to see that how we can convert it to the stringify function. So it's very straightforward. Only thing that we have to observe here is that it can be again a recursive structure. So inside an array, it can be again a nested array, and similarly inside an object, it can be a nested object. So we have to make sure, we have to keep checking for in case of array, we have to keep checking each and every item, and recursively we have to call a stringify function to stringify this entire array, and same goes for the object. So in case of object, we have to iterate each and key and value pair, and we have to check for the value. If the value is non-primitive, then we have to again recursively call the stringify function. So let's start typing, and then we will come to know about it more. So let's start writing the code. So what first we need to do is we need to create a variable type, and we just need to get the type of the input variable which is passed. And now we will add a switch condition, and then check what is the type basically, and then based on that we will take a decision. So when the type is Boolean, we will just return, basically we will just return the stringified version. So how do we convert a Boolean to string? So before that, let's declare a variable result, and this result will return at the end, right? So what we do here is we will assign the stringified version. So to convert a Boolean to a string, there is a very easy way actually to do that. We just add a string concatenation, and we just do like this. So once we concatenate empty string with the input, which is Boolean or number, and then it actually converts it to the string format. And the same goes for the number as well. So we'll just copy paste this for the same for the number as well, if the data type is number, and the same goes for the number as well. Now the third case is string. So in a string is actually a very little different case. So we need to add an extra quote here. As you can see that there is extra code that needs to be written. So what we will do here is we will check if it is a string, then result will be, so here we can now use a template string to add extra code. So what we need to do here is we have an input and we just add an extra code here. So this will pretty much return what we need here. Adding this template string will anyways convert it to the stringified format. So now let's think about finally our object case when we have array object. And by the way, when we pass null to this input, null is also object. So type of null is also an object. So we will come to this case and then we have to handle it separately. So let's write a very basic case for the null. So if the value itself is a null, right? So in that case, we can just return null with quotes. And then now we can check about the arrays and the object. So in case of array, how do we check if it is input is an array or not? So we'll check using type of again, but we will now use array.isArray function. So if array.isArray input, if it is an array, so we will handle it for the array, otherwise we will handle it for an object. And at the end we need to add a break condition. So in case of array, as you can see, what we need to do here is we need to have a quote, which is fine. So we will again use a template string. We need to have a quote. So we need to have a square bracket as well, like opening and closing square bracket. And then now we will iterate input and then convert it to the stringified format. So here what we'll do is we'll use input dot map, right? And then whatever item that we are getting, we will try to convert it to the stringified format again. So we pass that item again. So that way what is happening here is that we are taking each and every item here from the input, and then we are again checking, we are again stringifying each and every item, but now it is doing a map. So we need to also combine all the inputs, all the results. So we have iterated an array, we got the result, but now we have to combine and add these commas as well without any spaces. So once our map is ended, then what we need to do is just combine it using join and add a comma. So this is how it will be done for the array. And for object as well, what we will do is we will do object dot keys. So in case of object, as you can see that we need the quotes as well, right? So sorry, this square bracket, we need this curly brackets as well, extra brackets. So it is very similar. So we need to add a template string, and we need to add this curly bracket first. And now we will iterate to the object. So we'll say object dot keys, and we say input, and then here we will do map, and then we will get each and every key, right? So now here we need to just make sure what we are returning here. So for example, in this case, we have to have, for keys, we have to have this extra code. So it will be pretty similar to what we had here, right? So what we will return here is something like this. So we have to return key, an extra quotes we have to add here, right? And then we will have a colon, and then finally we will get the value using input of key. So for example, if a was the key and 1 was the value, we got in value of 1 using input of key. Now we have to again convert it to the stringified format, because it can be again a recursively, it can be again array or object or number. So now we pass like this, and once we have this, right, so now this will do the map. So now again we have to combine and add extra comma. So for that, what they will do is add the same way, join, and then add comma. So this will actually solve the problem here, and then in the end we are returning result, right? So in this case we can also add a default case as well. So we will just add a default, and we, in the default case, as you can see, we can just return result is equal to this and then break. So let's try to test this and see if it works or not. So we will use node here, and as you can see that all the results are true here. We can optimize it further, as we can see that there are certain conditions that are repeated, like in case of boolean and in case of number. So we can eventually just, as we have added the same value in the default, so we can actually just remove these cases if you want to, and it will work as well. So if we try again, still we are getting true. This is how we convert an string, an input, to stringified format, or we can, this is how we encode any input. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please like, comment or subscribe. Thank you.